Thank you for tuning in to the Live Like An Acrobat podcast. I'm your host, Shenea Stiletto, two-time acrobatic gymnastics world champion, USA Gymnastics Hall of Fame member, and world-class circus hand balancer. Please make sure to like, subscribe, and comment in support of the podcast, which is available on all platforms. Enjoy the show. My guest for this episode of the Live Like An Acrobat podcast is Benn Mendoza. That's Ben with two N's. He is an aerialist, an advocate, a legend, a circus lifer. My days with Ben go way back, and I have been excited and waiting to have him on the podcast since I started the podcast. Ben has been in incredible support of the podcast and of the work that I've been putting forth this last more than a year, since we've just celebrated the year anniversary since I've launched the podcast. And this is season 2 of the podcast. I couldn't think of anyone more incredible than to discuss pride in circus. And pride means so many things to so many people across so many different communities. And what I think about when I think about Benn Mendoza and his pride in circus, that's so multifaceted, so multidimensional for me. And you'll hear that. You'll hear his experiences, and we did not dip into all of our experiences and all of his experiences. And so Ben will be a reoccurring guest on the podcast, and look out for exclusive Patreon content as well that I will be putting out there that you can access eventually. And that'll be even more candid conversations between myself and Benn Mendoza because we didn't even get to the half of it in this episode, but we explored so much and went to so many places. Ben is a treasure. His voice is to be treasured, and his circus knowledge and intelligence is something that is precious and one of those things that's exceptional, and I hold in high regard. So enjoy the beautiful irreverence of Benn Mendoza and all that he brings to the circus community, all that he has ever brought. And if you find yourself inspired, remember, always reach out to the Benn Mendoza. He's there for you. He's waiting for you. And he's got such a big heart and one of the most beautiful personalities and people that I've ever had the privilege of knowing and meeting within this business. So enjoy my time, my conversation with the Benn Mendoza.
So we're officially recording now, and we're like, it's legit, and like we're recording now.
Oh yes, it's very legit. We are here.
Oh my God, Shenea, it's so good to hear from you. Just kidding. That's not that's my best Paris voice, but I'm just kidding. All right, so hi.
You're so professional. Hello.
I'm absolutely anything but. However, I do have amazing intentions, and I'm trying to do the best for the world, so I make it work.
Oh my God. Do you give classes? Do you give courses? Because you need to do like voiceovers, you need to do branding, you need to do all sorts of things. But I love that you have done your global circus takeover with your Paris Hilton style voice. That is everything.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And I actually do. Currently, what I've been doing ever since I entered the twilight of my youth, let's call it that, because I'm now 41, bless my heart, been, can you imagine? We've known each other since I was in my 20s.
Oh my God. Forever young. I'm just saying that. Like you are eternal. You don't age. You have not, but you are, and you have, and still stunning, still beautiful, still going, still amazing, still perfect.
I absolutely, I mean, we could go on and on about each other, but in my eyes, you will always be the wisest 19-year-old I've ever met my entire life. But to go back to what you were saying is, right now, as I kind of have really enjoyed my career and the things that I've accomplished, and kind of accidentally did everything on my bucket list. Now my goal on this planet is to help take that knowledge and wisdom and my we'll call them trials and tribulations and challenges that I've overcome, and help other people become the best versions of themselves that they can possibly be, and help just teach people how to human the best that they can. Because I know that we definitely were pioneers in so many different ways. You specifically, because my God, the things that you've survived and the things that you have overcome, especially just in your time with Realis and in your time with Arthur, that you like, they had to look for the American national anthem because nobody had ever played it before at Worlds, and they were like, oh my gosh, these people could win. And guess what? You did twice. So it was not a fluke. But you're a pioneer, and anybody that was supposed to be my mentor, they all died in the 80s. A whole entire generation of people died from that last pandemic. And it was heartbreaking to me, and I didn't realize how much it affected me until I now, as an adult, have had the chance to be the mentor that I always wished that I'd had. But that now is my main goal, and my main thing in life is to teach people how to be free, but also teach people how to live in kindness and openness and gratitude.
Oh my God, you're so amazing. I think it's also too amazing that you remember that story about my world championships. That is extraordinary. There's just few people in your life that have like the level of history and like knowledge of like the things that you've been through. And like, you are just so incredibly special to me in that way, because you have, I mean, like, we were there with each other in so many like beginnings and so many firsts, like you said, and being pioneers, like within circus, and, being independent and gigging, and like what this business was like so many years ago. Like, you were like that person. You are Benn Mendoza. Like, I can't believe you remember that.
I'm blushing now, but thank you for saying that. I'm blushing now.
You should be blushing. You should be blushing. And you've always been as well, which is so important for people that are listening, open, kind, compassionate, like all of those things that you're talking about, that you're teaching and that you're coaching, like you live those. You have been the prime example of that. And you were that for me. I mean, I was coming in as like a baby circus person and coming from, a totally different world, and starting my career with my first acrobatic duo, which was my first circus acrobatic duo, which was called Realis at the time, which means reality in Latin for listeners out there. It was my old partner, Arthur Davis, and we had such a time. We had such an amazing experience and career together, and we were a part of a lot of firsts, like what Ben is talking about. We were in the first, America's Got Talent. And that was huge at the time. It was season 1. We were all a part of doing the first reality shows. Now they're super popular out there, but at the time they didn't know what they were doing. They didn't know how the shows were going to be received. It was the first time people were seeing kind of like independent circus people and circus workers like making their way, and like what our careers look like. And a lot of us had our careers before we even got on those shows. So, they were definitely different than what they are now, which you can launch your career from those shows, but we were all professionals going on to that professional setting, willing to, I would say, like expand the market, so to speak, even though I think it turned into a new level of exploitation instead of kind of more of like the expansiveness. But in other ways, it did really, really work, and it did a lot of good things. We really wanted people to see what circus was, independent circus people, and also to acrobatic gymnastics, which I know is near and dear to your heart, Ben, as well as
absolutely,
as well as rhythmic gymnastics, male rhythmic.
Absolutely. Well, speaking of pioneers, I mean, just from you bringing it up, it was one of those moments that I had always wanted to do rhythmic, and I was actually the messed up thing for me was as an artistic gymnast, I was already too tall, and pommel horse was not a thing, and high bar was not a thing, but I love tumbling and I love partner stuff. I wish I had discovered sports acro, but that was just not what I had access to at that point. And I actually like ended up randomly training in a place at my circus school that had girls rhythmic. And that I remember the main thing that had happened was the girls were training ribbon, and I was like, oh, that looks like fun. That looks really good. And they're like, oh, you think this is fun? Here's a ribbon. I'll show you how fun that is. because ribbon is just ripe for betrayal. Every single moment of ribbon is trying to wind you up. And then they were like, oh my gosh, it just comes natural to you. How are you not ruining this? Like I did a boomerang my first try and they were like, oh, okay, boy. Like, I guess you're good at this. And then years later, I ended up on the first men's RG team. For anybody that doesn't know, in 2005, we went to Osaka. We were on the first US men's team and we won gold at Worlds. I got to take my mom. It was fun. But the gold medal crew is very, very small for the US for gymnastics in terms of things that were not like the Olympic things. So it really, 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 really did change my life. But I got to really, really experience that and love it. And so thank you for saying that.
Yeah, of course. I mean, like, male rhythmic doesn't get spoken about enough. And I mean, it's huge now. I mean, like, there's so much there, but it's still, when you bring it up and stuff, like, you don't hear people talking about it a lot. And like, you were such a pioneer of that. I mean, like, it's so incredibly special. Do you keep up with it? Like, I mean, like, I know you kind of keep up with like pretty much everything, but like, where is it at now? I mean, like, I watch, like, as an outsider, like, I love like watching like all of our favorite like gymnastic sports, rhythmic, trampoline, tumbling, everything, acro, like all of those things. They all have different names, different incarnations. But I mean, like, looking and seeing it now, I mean, like, did you imagine that even like, in 2005? I mean, you were the first like world champion. Like, that is amazing.
For the US, it was wild. And I actually do keep up on lots of different things. The thing that's the wildest for me is that I have gotten to see how the boys that are in, like, boys doing girls rhythmic has completely evolved. And it's a European thing right now. There's a whole slew of Spanish boys that are doing girls rhythmic. And the craziest thing is that they're built like me. So I'm 6'1", 220 pounds. And
stallion.
Okay. My mother called me a Fantasia hippo. She said, you're so pretty, but you're so big.
And a daddy
Mom,
stallion.
I said, Mom, I'm going to take that as the compliment that you meant it and not you calling me a big girl. She's like, no. She said, no. It's a compliment. It's a compliment. And it's one of the reasons I've gotten hired for so many things. Because people are just not I can't tell you the amount of times that I've gotten hired for something, and I'll show up on set, and they're like, "Oh, we thought you were 5'6". They're like, "This is even better. Thank you, amazing." And I'm like, "Oh, well, cool." But the ways that I've stayed on top of it is seeing the evolutions of things, and also seeing how there were so many times that I got told no, so many times that I got doors shut in my face, so many times that people, especially, I mean, I've been in the entertainment industry since I was 17. I was a competition kid growing up, and then did gymnastics, and then was like, well, I guess I'm graduating for school. I was a singer originally, and then going on dance auditions and being told that I was too tall, too short, too fat, too skinny, too muscular, not muscular enough, too Latin, not Latin enough, like too white, too tan, told I wasn't enough of things and too much of things for so long that I had to realize that if I let all those things sink in and worried about what I wasn't, I would turn into just this little like wad of gum, like hiding under a coffee table somewhere. And I had to make sure that I made myself so unique that when I wasn't everybody's cup of tea, but when people realized what I was, they were all about that. And that's kind of one of those things that I have tried to teach people, and have really tried to mentor people that were like me, and let them know that, look, you're so unique, you're so smart, you're so passionate, and like, but you are one of a kind. And if you feel like you don't belong, if you feel like you're a weirdo, lean in, because like, that's what's going to be yourself.
Yes, yes, yes. I love that. And again, you have always been that way. And I'm so grateful. Like I always tell people, like I was just so lucky and fortunate when I was that young to be around people like you that were so open because people like, they always say that about me or say that to me, like, you're so open, you're so like okay with everything. You're so easy with everything. I'm like, because I was around like the coolest people when I was in my formative years. And I think that's so important. Like it left such a big impression on me and being around people that were so accepting, that were so themselves, that like did what they want because like you just like did what you wanted and you were like, you've always been fearless. And in seeing that, like I always remind myself to be fearless, like people that I've known, that like I saw like at that time and at that age, because it's so easy to, try to like mold yourself into things that you think like this business wants you to be, because entertainment is really brutal, like what you were just talking about. Like, there's so many different things that you can not like fit into. And like I had the exact same journey. People always telling me
Oh
so many
my
crazy things
God.
all the time. But when when you're
Well, I can
around,
only
yeah.
go ahead. Oh no, I was just saying, I can only imagine even more for you because you have this insane skill level. You worked so hard for all of these things, but it was one of those moments that when you were doing the lead in Berkai, I I didn't know until I saw video of it, and I'm sorry, let me get emotional, but like I had like a full breakdown, and I was like, this barrier is broken. Like you were doing something that was built for a fucking like white girl,
Yeah.
and they were like, no, whoever was directing or whoever done this saw, and they saw in you this thing that had been created for Olga Pikhienko, bless her heart. Like she's amazing, and then the people that came after her, but like somebody was like, it's time, and Shenea is the bomb.com, and it's time.
Oh my God. I get so emotional just hearing you be like really emotional about that because like you just like so understand like that journey and are so inside of that, and like it was such a big deal. Like it was such a big deal to get that role. I mean, to like never have like a black female like lead in Cirque in a role like that. That was so
Oh my God,
I
it was
mean,
so amazing. And you also, I don't know if you know, but there were so many. I have, I've always been a champion for people that don't fit in. Like the person who I consider like my protege, his name's Brenton Hamilton, and the person who he gets the keys to the kingdom, and he's black, and he's from Texas, but he is a singer, a musical theater person, but a beautiful contortionist and a beautiful aerialist. And like I've taken him under my wing. As far as I'm concerned, he gets everything from he's my child and I love him. But like he is magic and gold, and he's the next generation. He's I had so many people that saw you, and they were like, it was the same way as when I saw Kidam, and I was like, oh my God, I I can do this. This
mm,
is like I've never seen anything like this. Here's the same way as representation matters, and it's such a cliche, but
mhm.
like all all these kids, like the same way as oh my gosh, I'm so embarrassed that I forgot her name, but it's uh Nastasia. Oh no, Black Rhythmic Gymnast. She was in the Taylor Swift video for Shake It Off. Oh, Nastasia Generalova. Like she's another one that like
Yes.
you're seeing. She's beautiful. She's doing things for Nike. She has this whole amazing career that she's created. Um, Seeing the artistic gymnastics team that's going to the freaking Olympics, and we have like two of the most incredible, like the two top girls are black girls, and we have a Latin girl, we have an Asian girl, and like
Yes.
it's not just like a monochrome thing. This matters. This matters so much, and it's so special. And just me being what I was, I didn't feel like I deserved anything for the longest time until ironically I saw a movie called The Fifth Element in
Oh my God.
1998, I think.
Lilu.
Oh my God, yes, look at
Lilu
that.
was everything. Lilu was everything. I mean, that was like my superhero crush of everything. I was like, all
Absolutely.
things are possible through Lilu. Thank you very
um,
much. Woof.
but that film, Luc Besson had a vision of, he's like, in the future, because it's going to be a global village, everybody is going to be hooking up with everybody. So everybody's going to be mixed race. And it was the first time that he booked mixed race models for the entire movie, to play the extras, to play like so many of the characters. And that was the first time that I'd seen mixed race like people on TV. And I was like, oh my gosh, there is a place for me. And that's kind of the situation that we're in right now. And it's so special and it's so cool. And I'm just trying to be a part of that. And like I said before, be the role model that I always wished that I had.
You are that, you are like that, like super like mentor. And I wanted to say like, just like, thank you for all of the support that you've given me, like for the podcast, because you have been the most supportive person of me launching the podcast like over a year ago, and like all the content that like I put forth, and how challenging that was, and how challenging it's been, and it continues to be, but it's a worthy challenge because things are not easy. And I've never not had adversity and challenge in my life. So even when you know how it is, like we have like been built on that, and that's just like been part of our journey, and that's a really good thing. I mean, it's definitely set me up to also assist or mentor, however you want to speak to it, and remind, people that are coming up that things are hard, but they get so much better, and they're getting better. And you have been so supportive. You've been, just rallying behind me and really like helping me to maintain being inspired, because I really believe in this podcast and I believe in these conversations. I believe in candid conversations coming from people like you. And I think it's really great that it's now been over a year since I launched and I have you, because you are like one of my favorite, special, like most meaningful guests, because you have been like there for me, and, like saying like, this is important and these conversations you're having are important, and reminding me like why I'm doing it. I mean, of course, like I haven't forgotten, but it's support, and I appreciate your support, and I just love you for that. And that really matters, especially when you want to speak in ways that people don't particularly like, especially in this business. And I really wanted voices like yours that have been around for so long, that have actually molded and shaped this business. And when I tell people, when they are afraid, or when they are in fear, or when they're feeling these things, I'm like, wait a second, you have the opportunity to do that now. I know people like Benn Mendoza that were doing it like 20 plus years ago, that were like laying it down and like not giving an F about whatever. And in taking their career into their hands and building it from nothing, building it from scratch. And the things that you're doing now were built based upon people like Benn Mendoza, who did it from the beginning all those years ago. So I think that history matters. I'm that person. I think that the people before us that were willing to do those things, you need to know about that, because it actually helps you to feel softer, like for your journey. So you don't feel like you're in some ways like the first, because you have to remember the people that helped to pave those paths for you. And I don't want people like you to be forgotten. I want you, and you're not forgotten, because you've stayed very involved, and you haven't gone or like left anywhere.
So loud. Yeah, thank you.
You're out, you're loud, you're proud, you're everything. I mean, so to me also too, it's like, you are really important, because some people kind of like go away and disappear, and after they've been around for a long time, but you haven't been one of those people. Because you're so powerful and so vibrant, and like your stick-to-itiveness too. And that's a part of like who like you've always been. And I really appreciate that about you too. Like it reminds me to continue and maintain my presence, and also reminding people how difficult for us, you and I, we're still in the game. We're still doing like good. This has been a brutal, brutal, brutal year. And I thought
God bless both of us. Cause like, and I mean, I'm not going to toot my own horn, but like, you're absolutely right. Like this year, especially, so many people tapped out. So many people said the hustle isn't worth it. Sometimes the squeeze is not worth the juice. Yeah. And they went, you know what? I've been in this gig for like 15, 20, 25, 30 years. And they're like, you know what? It's time for me to have my babies. I'm out. Like I'm out. I can name names and people that I absolutely have had so much respect for, that are the ones that definitely stood up and they said, you know what, I'm good, I'm out. And I respect that as well, because I understand when you've been just over socialized and have people pulling at you from every direction. But I really, really have so much respect for you for saying with this. And one of the other things too is one of the reasons that I've supported you as strongly as I have is there is no real form of historical documentation for our journeys from the 90s until now. There's people that have studied things before, but this is one of the ways that people can, if somebody really, really wants to dig, from listening to your podcast and listening to those things, and the people that you've like connected with and gotten on here are the people that have given the information of what it's been like since you and I came up. And so it's really, really, this is really, really special. One of the reasons that I'm an archivist. I document everything. I have video of you and I have a video of the when we shot that freaking for the second reality show that they wanted to pitch me for.
Yes, the original circus reality TV show. We did it. You did it. I mean,
it was amazing until they realized that they weren't going to they didn't realize what we were going to do for Ringleader was going to be just the reality of us putting on an event every week was going to be so high drama just because clients are crazy, rigging is crazy, staging is crazy. They were waiting for us they were like, okay, so we want it to be like the real world and we want you to get drunk and fight with each other to start drama. We're like, we don't need to start drama. We're picking up divas. I'm like, you're like, look, I have to hold a handstand. I have to do a handstand on top of Arthur. If the ceiling is not high enough, I can't do this. They didn't know that was going to be a high drama thing already, which had nothing to do with your ego. It literally just logistically, it was going to be high drama. And that's why I said, I can't get into this. I can't do this. I didn't feel comfortable. They made us EP, executive producers on it. And I said, I can't do this. Like, I am not here just to fight with my friends because we're always good. The thing that I wanted to do was show the passion and the commitment we had to all of this and how dramatic it was already just getting shows and things done. But at the end of the day, we were always rooting for each other. We were always backing each other up, and we were going to make the show happen and work and be fierce for each other no matter what. And at the end of the day, because we were family, it was always going to work. And what they wanted was an ongoing fight that was going to carry on to the next week. And we could be like, well, so-and-so said this. They're like, no, after the show's done, we don't care. We have a whole other week to get into. So that was one of the reasons that that didn't become an ongoing thing. And then I realized also I'm interested in.
I want to speak on that just a little bit more, though, because I just want to insert a little bit for people, just to remind people that I always remind them of the things that it's not just important to recognize the things that people have done in their careers. It's very important to realize what they said no to and what they did not do. And we don't speak about that enough in this business. Like, people see things and I'm like, yeah, but you don't realize there were people that had those opportunities that were not willing, out of a certain level of integrity, to not allow themselves to be pushed to certain limits that they didn't feel was integral to this business or to this environment, or like respectful to our reality, right? Because you were really interested in showing the pure reality of what we were doing. You weren't interested in showing something that was scripted and convoluted, that didn't make sense and had nothing to do with like the real way that like our business functions. And you said no to those things. And again, there has been like a barrage of things now where in our business, people have been willing to say yes to all sorts of levels of exploitation, because that's what it is. To a certain extent, not everybody, not all situations. I never say things blanketed with anyone. The audience that listens to this podcast knows that, of course, but it's like so many nuances of that I think are so important to remind people that there's been people in powerful positions that had opportunities that were like, wait a second, that doesn't feel right. That's not cool. I don't want to show our business like that. And I really say that enough because I want circus workers and circus performers and circus community to take our industry back and to have it held in the hands of people that want to show it with its authentic integrity and not being looped and lauded and convoluted into all these things that, the bigger kind of companies and corporations have kind of turned it into, because it's really, could have in some ways gone on a different path and on a different journey. And I think it's really great that you had that opportunity and saw it from a different perspective, which I held that perspective too at that time and still do. And that is, I think, a very important nuance to that conversation. I just really wanted to pinpoint that, and then please continue on because you storytell so well, and I love hearing all of these things, and it's reminding me so much. It's such a beautiful, brilliant, trip down memory lane.
Well, thank you so much for saying that, because there are I can name some things off and some people that, I'm going to name names specifically, like Neil and Suzanne from Cirque Berserk had the same situation, and they got offered a thing, and people can choose whatever their experience was, but they were another group. They were the first time that a entire circus got chosen to be taken to Burning Man, and it was super, super intense. But they were also people that were the reality TV. They wanted to make a reality TV show about them, and it did not work out. And I believe that it just wasn't. It wasn't the right time and place for people to understand that you don't need high drama. You don't need to manufacture high drama to make a circus show interesting, because honey, it's already happening.
Pretty interesting. Everybody's already interesting and cool.
Yes. We don't need to fake it. And our backstories and the things that we've survived and the things that we've gone through. You just need to do that. The current thing that I've been doing is right before the world ended, one of my dearest friends that I met at I know, right? It's not ending anymore, but right before the world ended, one of my dearest friends who I met at Aspen Gay Ski Week, she is a producer for a TV show, an amazing, wonderful power lesbian, and she listened to me say that one of my favorite shows ever has been Chef's Table on Netflix. And one of the reasons that I love that show was that it took a 5 Michelin star chef and didn't just be what is your restaurant like right now? It said, how did you get to this point? What trials and tribulations did it take for you to get here? And then how are you engaging your local just community? And what's your vision for the future? And that was something that I had written a whole treatment for and created basically a chef's table, but for all, because I had School of Hard Knocks so when I grew up for circus. When I had started, Joe Pinzon, I don't know if you remember him, but
yes, Joe.
We're both fabric, aerial fabric specialists, but he decided to go the academia way and he went to ENC, and then I did the School of Hard Knocks version and just traveled the world and was like, hey, how's this going down? What are our different languages? How do different circus communities speak to each other? And for me, I wanted to I wanted to see if I could apply for a Fulbright scholarship and see if I could do a thesis on how, because any place that I've ever gone in the world, I've automatically had a home because of circus. I can land in any city in the world. I've landed in Tokyo. I've landed in Cape Town. I've landed in Montreal. I've landed in Columbus, Ohio, Miami, New York, Mexico City, any of these places. And then I reached out to the circus community and they're like, oh my gosh, you're Ben Mendoza. We have so much to learn from you. And I'm like, no, I have so much to learn from you. Let's make friends. Let's go into this with no ego, because you can't learn you can't learn with ego or teach with ego.
Mm-hmm.
If your cup is already full, you can't think of filling it.
Mm.
And that's just the truth. And I've been so we're gonna say fortunate, because I hate hashtag the other word. But my experience with Joe was just seeing how the two of us had grown through our different experiences, and it's been absolutely magical. And I have so much respect for him, because the magic that he creates right now shows me what could have been, but I'm so happy for my own path.
Oh my God, you're so funny. I love that you're talking about, because this is a thing, right? And I hear this a lot more from the new generation. When I'm speaking with them, but I always have to remind them again, and I am that person now, and I think that that's okay. I think that that's really good, because I like that when I was growing up. I like that when I was around older circus people, and they spoke to me about things. Some things I decided to prove them wrong when they would talk to me about situations or things that would never change in circus, and I said, well, that's not. I don't care. Like, I'm going to prove you wrong, and I actually did that. So
oh my God,
I
that
did
makes
that.
me so like, that gets me. Oh my gosh, that gets me so hot under the collar. But like, you're absolutely right. I know. Sorry, continue.
It's okay. It's all perfect. Yeah. And like, like I remember those things, and I remember those things even when I'm speaking to like younger circus people and stuff that are saying things. But what I remind them, is what you're talking about, is that there's no rhyme or reason to your circus career, because they speak to me and they'll say, oh, you came from this sport background. You were so privileged, like people really go against us because we didn't come from high level sport and we don't have these titles. And I say, ha ha ha. I said, actually, that's not correct. I said, because people have tried to stop me multiple times in my career, telling me that I'm too sporty, that I'm too static, that I don't have personality, that I don't have the right character, that I don't have the right look, that background is going to hurt me, that I'm not authentic to circus, that I don't have a multi-generational family circus background.
Oh my, sorry. I need to stop you right there, because like, I wish that I was your manager at that point, because I would have karate chopped them like verbally in the throat for all of those things. I can't even get into it. You're the same way as me. You have been told no on so many levels, so many times, in so many ways. You can just, I just see you there, like thrumming your fingers, being like, I'm going to wait for you to finish talking, and then I'm going to let you know what's what.
They've told me that I'm not flexible enough, that I don't have the right look, that like, that'll never work, that I could never, like when I'm doing solo hand balancing, that I'm limited. And you know what? I got all the roles that I wanted. I tried for Kidam, I tried for Verikai, I tried for Amaluna, I tried for Zumanity. I got all of those roles. I didn't end up doing all of them, but I got them. I got offered all of them. I did Verikai. And even before that. So, like, I love what you're saying, because it's so important for everyone to hear out there. I have been around the most incredible people in circus with the most incredible careers. They did not come from high sport. They did not go to, they did not have these high level Russian coaches that I had. They did not have my background, and they had incredible careers. And so it doesn't matter, which is what I'm saying. And it's never really mattered. Yes, there's different nuances and different conversations we can have about that, because sometimes it just comes down to a level of safety when we're talking about coaching. And I go all in on that, because to me, coaching is very sacred. I know that you're all in about safety too, Ben, and that's a big deal for you. It's a big thing for me. So when I start getting touchy about so-called technique and background is when it comes to coaching, because that is like the bread and butter of maintaining the safety and the cohesiveness and the glue in this business, because our lives are literally in the hands of the people that are training us. And so to me, that's a really big deal. So when we come into background and people getting
absolutely, and sorry, don't mean to cut you off right there, but like that, this is something that I was hoping that you were. I know this is very organic, but like that's one of the things that I wanted to touch on specifically, and you bringing up right now, it's so important. And one of those things that safety is two different kinds. It is the physical safety when you're doing a ground act, when you're doing hand to hand, when you're doing anything acrobatic on the ground, but then like the aerial safety, knowing that you trust your rigger, knowing that you trust your base, knowing that you trust your base on the ground in the air. That's one thing, but also artistic safety, knowing that you're going into a situation that people are they're asking you to bare your soul. People are asking you to put it out there and literally just, especially if you come from a sport background and you don't come from a theater or dance or somewhere where you don't grow up storytelling and you're asked to on the spot. That is the scariest thing ever. But both of those things are so important. And I always tell people, and I've recently kind of morphed into doing aerial safety. Well, I mean, like acrobatic safety consulting.
I love it.
And it's been so special and so lucky that people have trusted me like that, and that now finally, as I enter the twilight of my youth, that
Legend.
Legend. That people are listening to me and I'm like, no. If people do not feel safe, in so many different ways, if they don't feel safe, they're not going to feel free. And if you don't feel free and you're second guessing your partner, your rigger, yourself, you're not going to be able to storytell. You're always going to be second guessing everything and always be like being like, oh, I need to keep myself safe. I need to keep myself safe. And if you're doing that, you're never really going to be able to let yourself go and storytell the way that you deserve to be storytelling if you are taking your life in your hands and doing all these things. So thank you for bringing that up. I really, really, really appreciate it. And we can touch on that a little bit. Well, we can do a whole episode on that, but
you can keep going. You can keep going. More of what you have to say on that, because I mean, this is your episode. Like, this is your time, and I would love to hear more of like what you want to speak on in that, because to me, that's like one of the most like prolific things. And I have to say this: people have always asked me why I have not touched on doing more aerial, and I said because of the rigging and because of the safety issues. I have seen too much of what I don't like, and seeing artists being vulnerable like that in so many different parts of the world, because things have become exploited. And it's not that it's all bad. It's so much expansive opportunity for all of us and for everyone. However, watching aerialists not get their needs met in these different situations because these environments are not made for circus performers has been really brutal, and has like left me sometimes with a little bit of PTSD, because I'm watching their experience, and I'm obviously
a lot. I don't blame you. I don't blame you for having a lot. So go ahead.
It's really intense. It's really crazy to see people really feel like their life is 100% in danger, but they have the job and they're going to go up there and do it anyway. Or having performers say like Shenea, like coming to me like, like, in my twilight years, because I have more experience. And just because I'm not an aerialist doesn't mean that I don't understand all the nuances of those things in safety, because I've been around it for so much and I pay attention. But asking me, what should I do, Shenea? What should I do? And the thing is, when you've come to a certain point in your career, you know how to say no. And I've told people many times working with them that are aerialists, don't do the job. Don't do the show. If they're going to replace you today, let them replace you and send you home. This isn't safe for you. Refuse to do it. Do a boycott. Most oftentimes, I will say, I think actually like 9 times out of 10, they don't listen to my advice because they're too afraid for their jobs. And so they continue and they perform and they cry after every single performance and they cry before every single performance. And being around that more and more, it's gotten more and more, because the more places I go and do innovative circus where they've never had it before, the more problems that I see. So people have always asked me, why haven't you done more aerial? And I say, I'm not willing to do it unless it's in a very controlled environment and very contained. And even when I did it in Barakai, it was difficult because we were subject to union regulations for the arenas, but that didn't work for us. That worked for the union workers at the arenas. So when I needed to maybe do like 15 passages of like my aerial passage onto my canes, I was only able to do like 1 or 2 due to the union regulations that were supposed to protect circus, but they actually didn't protect circus. They were just like regulations.
Oh,
like,
Christ. I can't, like, we'll get like, okay, let's get into that for one moment.
Yeah.
Okay, listen, I'm about to blacklist myself forever, but there are, just for any up and coming circus artists that are about to get in a professional or union situation, I grew up a musical theater kid, and I've been doing circus for 23 years professionally. And the 2 most high strung archetypes in the theater are a soprano and a union rigger. So if you want to have a good time and you want to have a good experience and you're being an aerialist, the best thing you can ever do is make friends with your union riggers and come in and tell them exactly what you need. Come in and tell them, this is what it is. This is the height. This is what I want to be rigged from. This is how many pounds that we need of working load. This is blah, blah, blah. And then let them do their jobs and come in and watch them do their jobs. If they do something that you don't feel is correct, go to your showrunner, go to your producer, go to whoever and be like, hey, I saw this not done correctly. Can we get somebody else, whoever is the supervisor, to come in and look at it again and do the math? But whatever the fuck you do, I mean, sorry, can you say do on TV?
Oh, yes.
Whatever you do not stand there, look over a union rigger's shoulder and micromanage them. Because no matter what happens, at 12 p.m., 2 p.m., they have a hard out. They have their lunch. And at 7 p.m., they're like, sorry, we're done for the day. And you're like, well, I need to do 4 more runs. Wait, what? And they will be like, no, we're done. We don't care. But if you make friends with them, if you show them that they have worth because they are in high school in so many different things, the stage staff, they're gods. But once they get into the real world, you start getting into the divas. But if you show them that they have worth, you will learn so much from union riggers. But if you try and take them for granted or you try and micromanage them, you're going to have a bad time. But that is the biggest thing that I could ever tell anybody if they're going onto a professional set and trying to do stuff as a soloist, not as a production. If you're going to a music video, or you're going to a movie, or like any of these things, somebody else will take care of it. But if you're going in as a soloist doing aerial, the best thing you can do is go in, be super, super, super clear about what you need and knowing what you need, but do not micromanage them. Sorry, continue. Do not micromanage union riggers.
Do not micromanage union riggers. If we've come out with anything from this segment of the Benn Mendoza, my goodness, God's gift to aerial, it would be God's gift to gigging, the Benn Mendoza. God's gift to the circuit. God's gift to the circuit.
No. Oh my God. I'm blushing right now. My breasts are blushing right now. I'm going to send you a picture. Oh my goodness. But yes, and my if your takeaway from all of this is do not micromanage a union rigger.
Listen out there, folks. Listen up. Listen up. He has put in his dues. He's put in the work. He has put in the time. Believe him. He knows what he's talking about. He knows what's up. I have Burning Man'd with this man. I have entrusted my safety into Benn Mendoza several times. And it.
Oh my gosh, Shenea. I have been a burner for 17 years.
The originals.
I work with a company called Hybrid Movement Company in New York, and they're actually the ones that have kept me in still doing circus for the last 5, because they kept me safe the way that I would try to keep people safe, and that you have told me that you appreciate. But Burning Man actually offered us the grant to perform off of the man for the last couple years.
Oh my God.
And the last one, so it was like that is the highlight of my career. And we did it in 2019. But it's so funny that I've been doing it for 17 years, and it was so special for me to invite you and Arthur to do that.
Oh
and
my God.
You have no idea what it took for me to even get the fucking, pardon my French, to get the RV to be able to like house us. And I remember we gave you the alcove because we're like, I'm sorry, Arthur's not gonna fit up there. you're like, I'm 5'2" or whatever you are, and you're like, this is a queen size bed to me.
5 feet, like barely 5 feet. Barely 5 feet and like 83 pounds, 82 pounds.
Look, we see eye to eye. So in my mind, you are 6 feet tall, but it was so magical.
Oh, yes.
And it just, I remember one of the reasons that when I realized that I had made the right choice, because I didn't know how you guys felt about it, but I remember that we were all going out to, 2 times with the both of you. It rained for the first time in forever, and we had a double rainbow. And you and Arthur were like, I'm taking pictures. And you and Arthur did the one-handed, you guys, like, you popped a one hand with your toe touching one of the double rainbows, and I took the most amazing picture ever. And you guys were like not ready. Like, of course, like doing a one hand is insane, especially if he's like 7,000 feet tall. But you made it work, and you guys saw the double rainbow, and you're like, no, man, we're doing this. And I was like, amazing. The other magical point was we were gonna all go out to the band for the burn, and we lost you. And we lost him. And then walking on our way, of course, because Arthur's the tallest person in the world.
Yes,
I'm like,
he is.
And he's like, baby, like I named him Redwood, like because he's
a tree. He's a tree.
He's a tree, but
he's the embodiment of a tree.
But like not just, and he's an ancient tree. He's an ancient tree. And I was like, ancient tree. I was like, you're the one I feel safe with. Let's go. And then we were like, this is beautiful. And he looked at me and he was like, fuck, I wish she was here. And I'm like, oh, I'm not gonna cry. Like, it's fine. Well, okay, sorry. Who rides in on some beautiful boy's shoulders, walking in? Literally, we couldn't miss you. You literally are walking in, and we go, oh my God, Shenea. In a group of 40,000 people, you wander in on the most beautiful man's shoulders, and you go, oh my God, there! And he runs up and grabs you. And we're like, nope, magic, meant to be, meant to be. This is why this place is magic. And I was like, sold. In a group of 40,000 people, you found the most beautiful straight boy, and you weren't even interested, literally just to carry you in. Because you're like, I'm tiny, I'm going to run over. And I was like, this is why this place is magic. You literally like snapped your fingers and had somebody be your pallbearer.
Oh my God. It's like
so I'm so thankful for that entire moment. And I was like, I will continue doing this until I can't, because it's magic.
Oh my God, feel the burn. It was, and for me, that was like my one experience. It was so incredible. Like all the stories that you're retelling right now, like I had the most incredible first and like last experience at Burning Man. And like, it was just everything for me. Like, and there was like, it was even a time too, like there was like no photos, like there was like no social media during that time.
Yes.
Like we could
that was it, where people were like, yes. And people were like, they were like, no, if you're here, you need permission. You need to walk up to somebody and get permission. It was great. It was great.
Yes, it was amazing. It was so magical. Like anybody that like started going like way after that, like of course, like it's so amazing. And like, like my heart like lights up. Like I'm still so grateful for you for like planning that for us and like having us go. Mm-hmm. And the funny thing I will remind everybody too is that like me and my acrobatic like circus partner, Arthur, we like made this like weird pact before we went to Burning Man, because we were like, we really just want to go all out and experience and like be open and like not have to worry. So we were like, we're not going to do that that much circus like while we're there, which people would say like that's like totally counter to like why you would go and be expressive at Burning Man, but like we totally did that. So it was a really like funny, like interesting ride for us, because of course we ended up doing it like in doses, and when it did happen, it was like really beautiful and magical, and we would like pop up into a one-arm handstand like in a double rainbow, or we like popped up into a one-arm handstand inside of like this huge like rave, like with people like jumping around us. Like it was amazing.
And
like,
they lost their minds. And that's I didn't know that you guys had made that agreement, which makes everything else even more the magical. My one regret is that I was dating the evil midget at that point, and he was like, oh, I'm gonna do this. He lost every single picture that we have of any of that. My favorite picture was I was doing a back bend, and you did a handstand on my hips in the middle of a translation where there was just like sparks like spinning out of this hopper, and you did a handstand on top of my hips, and like it was the most magical picture I'd ever seen, because it was you and I calm as cucumbers, and then just like sparks, and the evil midget lost that camera picture. However, we don't have any footage of him anywhere, so it's fine. And it has nothing to do, let me clarify, it has nothing to do with anybody being wrong with being a little person. I think being a little person is amazing. I have several friends that have just been fucking amazing little people in my life. He's just not a nice little person.
Well, I have like all of those memories like in my mind, and I always tell people that's like the best place that they can be, because we literally got to just, I mean, like we're saying, like there were moments of like photography, but like what you're saying too, they were like limited and they weren't very much, and you didn't expect them to like end up anywhere. So that was also just like, it's a completely different like feeling, and it felt so sacred, and it felt so like restorative. And I just always tell everybody, like one experience in your lifetime, you need to be a part of like a collective experience like that. Like even if you're going to do circus or whatever, just like regardless, there was so many different like facets of like expression there, of like being an artist.
And it was ours. It was ours. It is ours. And to this day, it will always be bizarre. Well, also be bizarre. But
it was bizarre. I mean, we're not telling all the bizarre stories, because those things are sacred and like they're only going to be shared like between like us. However, like it's a bizarre trip. Like it's a trip on like so many levels, but like it's also like super like ordinary and like, you know, like one-on-one and connected and like basic and like naturalist. I mean, like I could go through so many different words, and you've been going for years. Please enjoy this short interlude. Check out Circo.co, a new circus school online international platform where you can learn hand balancing with me and learn so many other circus disciplines from trained cirque performers from all over the world. Please make sure to check out the CircuspreneurBlog.com for extended conversations and interactive content of each episode of the Live Like an Acrobat podcast. Check out my new vlog series, Think Like an Acrobat, which is available exclusively on Circus Talk as a pro series. It's offering pro tips to professionals within the circus arts industry. On the current episode of Think Like an Acrobat, I interview circus coach and training legend, Olga Pikhienko. Olga is a legendary Cirque du Soleil artist and an icon within the industry, and she offers pro tips, secrets, and all things necessary to know how to train properly and how to coach properly at the highest levels that you can imagine within the circus industry. There's a call for an acrobatic teaching artist by Circus Harmony, located in St. Louis, Missouri. Circus Harmony is seeking a full-time acrobatic teaching artist. Circus Harmony is primarily a social circus, but also offers recreational and pre-professional training. Acrobatics Coach is a key member of their teaching artist team, since they believe acrobatics to be the primary core skill for all circus arts. They are seeking a reliable and adaptable individual who is highly knowledgeable about acrobatic technique and able to work independently and in a team. They need to be calm and creative with a good sense of humor to appreciate and survive the daily challenges of supporting a social circus that serves young people with a range of ages, abilities, and backgrounds. They must be a person of good character whose values align with Circus Harmony Code of Conduct. Candidate must be interested in serving as a role model and mentor as well as a technical coach. And they will need to be willing to relocate to St. Louis. The position is full-time, reports to artistic/executive director. It's 40 hours a week. Salary is commensurate with experience. The responsibilities include teaching and choreographing beginner to advanced solo and partner acrobatics and mentoring. Education, experience, and skills, 7+ years of experience in circus teaching and performing, high skill level in teaching solo and partner acrobatics. They prefer someone who can also teach Chinese pole and hoop diving, and they have knowledge of other circus genres. Competencies include great organizational skills, tremendous communication skills, both in person, writing, and electronic, ability to prioritize and multitask under pressure, willingness to work a flexible schedule and be both independent and a team player, understanding that they are teaching more than just circus arts. They must demonstrate integrity and good judgment, common sense, and a sense of humor. Advantages of the position include training space, opportunity to perform, and working with a diverse group of children and adults working to make the world a better place. Reliable transportation is required. To learn more about the company at www.circusharmony.org and on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube at Circus Harmony. If interested, please contact Jessica Hintoff at circusday@circusharmony.org with a resume and cover letter stating why you are the right person for this job and a list of 3 references with at least 1 being a circus-related reference. Links to videos of your choreographic or performance work is appreciated. Join the Live Like an Acrobat podcast on Patreon. Become a patron. Enjoy early episode releases of the Live Like an Acrobat podcast and stay tuned for more exclusive content to come in the future as the community grows. Help me, your host, Shenea Stiletto, to keep bringing you the creatively innovative episodes that you've grown to love by signing up at www.patreon.com/Live Like an Acrobat podcast. I hope to see you on Patreon, and thank you so much for your support of the podcast. It's my intention that the Live Like an Acrobat podcast will make a lasting positive impact on the circus arts world, performing arts world, creative entrepreneurship world, and acrobatic gymnastics competitive world at large. Chat with an Acrobat. It's the new mini offshoot of the Live Like an Acrobat podcast that will give listeners a chance to hear me, your host, Shenea Stiletto, have conversations lasting 15 minutes or less with fascinating individuals outside of the circus and gymnastics worlds at large. The special guest also gets a chance to ask me about the circus and gymnastics worlds and share their perspectives on both as an outsider. Enjoy this new segment of the podcast that will eventually become content accessible only through Patreon. Episode 1 and 2 are now available on all platforms. And now, back to my conversation with the Benn Mendoza. I wanted to ask you though, what have you seen as the progression of circus over these years with hardcore burners? I mean, there's so many groups now that invest, like you said, so much in doing circus. When they go to Burning Man, it's like a totally different thing. You know, they've got shows.
Well,
what do you think about all that?
One of the things that I realized is that when my first couple times going to Burning Man, hold on, let me find my words. my first couple times going to Burning Man, I realized that there wasn't. My mom's a diplomat, and she taught me how to be one, and I'm gonna be one right now. There weren't people that were trying to be. They weren't trying to be what I was and what I am. And what I am trying to do is just help people become the best versions of themselves. Mm-hmm. That was really, really shittily worded.
You're so diplomatic. I am the same.
I'm so diplomatic.
It was so. It was so incredible.
I'm not trying to say that this person. I'm trying so hard not to say that Cypher Zero was there trying to just fuck girls.
what had happened was, that's what I usually say. What had happened
was, yes. However, like, well, like, there's people that have been already excommunicated. So, so, oh my God, I'm so sorry. No, I'm not. Like, blacklist me. It's fine. If you're gonna blacklist me for telling the truth,
well,
you can.
Well.
But the thing that I wanted to do was, I felt so lonely. Because I had found this truth. I'd found this this place where I was like, oh my gosh, I'm actually like happy, but I don't have anybody to share this with. And so I went to Burning Man for the first like 5 to 9 years, trying to teach everybody. And I would teach workshops, and then I taught. So let me tell you one of my workshops. I taught a workshop on the playa, and I was teaching them Bene Gesserit, like Mongolian Jedi mind tricks. And I had 23 people sitting in a circle, looking at their toes, being like, if you can wiggle your pinky toe without wiggling the rest of your toes, you're a human. And you know what it's like to engage a muscle group without engaging and with relaxing the rest of the muscle groups next to it. And that means that you have choice. And so I had a group of people looking at their toes, trying to wiggle their pinky toes on the block. People walk by literally with a group of like 22 people, like in a circle, like all of us with our toes in the same thing. And they would come up to me and they would whisper, they're like, are you starting a cult? Like, why are all these adults like trying to wiggle their pink toes, like looking at them? Like, oh no. So it was super, super special, but I tried my best. And then there's so many circus careers that I starting in 2005. And then they would leave. And then, because I've been doing this for 17 years, they would come back. And they'd be like, hey, you changed my life from being a dancer, from being a cheerleader, from being an acrobat, from being any of these things. And I realized that I'm too much of a weirdo. What I am and love is circus. It's being an aerialist. It's being any of these things. And they would come back with a whole new set of skills levels. And I was like, this is the best compliment you could ever give me. And then those people spread across the United States, because Burning Man is like the new Wall Street. And it is. And they kept coming back and being like, I started a school. I started a program. I started this. I started that. And I was like overwhelmed, and just like, it just made me feel like I was actually following through with being like just inspiring people. And then I stopped and just watched it grow on its own. And now I come back, and that's one of the things with Cirque Berserk, because I was Neil's first coach. I was Suzanne's coach. I was Terry Beeman's coach. Oh my gosh.
Wow,
let's talk about Terry Beeman. Oh my gosh. Let's talk about Terry Beeman.
Oh my God.
Well, hold on. Okay, sorry, because we've gotten here. Let me talk about Terry Beeman. So, once upon a time, there was an artist called Paula Abdul. She was not just a crazy person on American Idol. She was like, it was Madonna, Janet Jackson, and Paula Abdul. Those were the biggest stars in the world. And there was a moment where she did a music video for a song that you should all look up on YouTube, Paula Abdul, Blowing Kisses in the Wind. And when I was a little girl, I watched it, and it was this thing where I was dating a nice gentleman that was on her Under the Spell tour, and he danced for Janet. And I won't name names, But
Oh.
like he to this day, I will always have a crush on him, and he changed my life. But
That must have been so good.
it was so good.
Oh.
By my reaction. Oh my gosh. Stop.
Till this day, how many years later is that?
To this day, he's still the best. He's like,
Ooh.
I almost said it. Nope. To this day, he's still the best.
That was a good man. Please carry on.
They did the blowing kisses in the wind video, and I had never seen. My mother took me to ballet. She took me to all this contemporary. She took me modern. She took me to all these like opera and chamber music and all these different things. I was so lucky because she exposed me to everything, but never expected me to be anything, because everybody in my family's known that I was a little gay boy since I was 5. So they were like, oh, we got a special one here.
Give him everything. Be
like, look, he's gonna do whatever he's gonna do. So just might as well just give him everything, so it's fine. But I saw on MTV the video for Blowing Kisses in the Wind, and were doing all these partner routines, which PS, I'm sorry. I'm so angry at Beyonce for giving you and Arthur the dance audition when I saw the pas de deux and her thing. I'm like, this would have been so much better with your act. Sorry, I had a lot of feelings. It would have been so much better with you guys literally doing exactly what your act was, because people would have lost their goddamn minds.
Oh gosh! Say it again for the people in the back. My goodness.
For the people in the back, they took. Oh, who was your agent at that point? They didn't know.
They didn't know. It was like Block or something like that. It was one of the dance agents.
Oh yes, it was
LA.
Block. But mind you, Block had also created this beautiful place where we had seen your act, and everybody was like, "Oh my god, this is amazing." Block sent you guys to the Beyonce audition for her tour, and didn't say, "Hey, they're amazing. They're world champions." They tried to make you guys go into a dance audition. Yes. And guess what? You're not fucking dancers. Dancers. I'm sorry. Okay, I'm gonna say it right here because I've been a dancer. I have, as my experience, dancers are subhuman. Dancers are the hardest hustlers in the entire world. We do not get paid what we deserve. We do not get, because every human has dance by them. But you guys can do a fucking one hand on, pardon myself. You guys can do a one hand on top of each other. And there was a whole pot of the moment in that freaking tour they did like a beautiful contemporary ballet with, like, both of them were beautiful dancers, but as you two, oh my God, that every time I see that, I say, gosh darn it.
Because it should have been us. And that's one of those things that like people don't remember, like back in the day when like circus wasn't this thing where they expected 5,000 circus performers to show up at every single audition in LA. There would be like one group, like one duet, or like one circus performer. Not kidding, for all the circus people out there. It was not like that. And so what these dance agencies did so poorly back then, they would lose you your job. They would literally lose you your job because they did not know how to sell you properly. And they would send you as
it made me want to
they would send you as dancers with special skills. And you would never get the opportunity most times to show your special skills. So you would be competing against like the normal dancers that toured with Madonna, that toured with Christina Aguilera, that toured with Beyonce. You would be competing competing for that spot without them really knowing that you're a circus performer. And then after the fact, they would maybe kind of look at your video and then see, but they didn't do the dance audition well, so then we're not going to give them the circus part. Like, it was so poorly done back then and so ridiculous. We lost so many tours. We lost like movies because of it. We lost all sorts of things because the agents could not sell us properly with just a few words.
It made me want to karate chop people in the throat so many times. And that's one of the things. My sister is my actual sister is a musical theater agent right now. And contact me, anybody. But she has sold people knowing what I've gone through. And she's like, abso-fucking-lutely not. She was like, I will never send you on a dance audition ever again. And not because she ever did, but she was like, she knew. And she was like, you're not a dancer, you're everything else. And one of the things that infuriated, it was so great after the first 5 years, after I'd been professional for 5 years, I would come into these dance auditions with my videotape.
VHS, shout out.
VHS. I would come in with my VHS and like I would have all the fierce LA dancers. And they're stretching their middle splits in a doorway, being like, I am fierce. Oh my God, my last contract. Oh my God, it was with like Jessica Simpson and Mandy Moore. And doing their whole thing. I mean, literally walking in at 10 a.m., handing my videotape to whoever the casting director was and being like, they're like, oh, well, we don't have rigging with my aerial gear with me. And then being like, oh, we don't we're at Morelandis. Like, we don't have Morelandis, for any of you don't know, was like one of the most amazing dance studios ever. I don't think it exists anymore. Everything's Millennium now. But and being like, we don't have a place to rig you. And I'm like, oh no, that's fine. Here's my videotape. And then be like, thank you. And then me walking with my gear and walking out while everybody was about to have a freaking 5 to 8 hour dance audition. And they're watching them hate me. Like, hate me. It was fantastic.
They used to hate us too. It was so funny. They used to hate us. They would be like, get them out of here. And we would be like, hey, now they asked for specialty performers. That's why we are here. Like, why are you hating on us? But it was because they thought, of course, we would take the spot. But even in most cases, because the agenting was so bad, they didn't lose the spots anyway. It still ended up usually going to dancers. So I always thought that was really funny. I was like, you guys are super mad, but we're still losing out opportunities that they actually won us for. And we would go in sometimes and do skills, and we would still lose the job because the agent wouldn't be able to like do like an integrative conversation like with the director producer. I mean, people just don't know. It has come a long way with like circus just being like, okay, we're gonna have aerialists there, and we're gonna have like a duet there, we're gonna have a contortionist there, trapeze artists there. Like, oh my God. They don't know.
I had somebody who I brought in who was a phenomenal contortionist from San Francisco. Her name was Ember, and we were at Morelandis, and they actually had a contortion call, and she had a full like chest stand, like headset, and they didn't want to give her anywhere to fucking warm up. Pardon my French. You can't say warm up on TV. They didn't want to like give her anywhere to warm up, and like they had people walking over her doing a freaking headset. And I'm like, I'm standing there trying to run interference and be like, no. Ugh, sorry, I had a lot of feelings about that.
We did so many auditions in the trenches where it was like outside, you know, like on the pavement, on the sidewalk, trying to get the movie, trying to get the commercial, trying to get the TV show, trying to get the tour, trying to get the music video. I mean, where there was like no place for us. Yeah. Where people were literally stepping over us too. And we just had to like suck it up and go with it because that's the way that it was. I mean, it eventually got better and we actually did start putting our foot down. So we actually took the initiative to say like, we're no longer going to what we all used to call cattle calls, because they essentially were. I mean, dancing and being a dancer is so hard. It's so hard. And like, you know, when there used to be like 1,000 dancers show up, but now I tell people there can be like 1,000 circus people that show up to auditions now as well. I mean, like, that's totally unprecedented and like so different from before. They still don't really have like the space and stuff for us, but they at least like carve out the agreement that it's going to be like a circus audition, that there's going to be circus people there. But it still always baffles me that they are so like underprepared to have us like even now. But yeah, I mean, it's kind of like equal now with like dancers, the way that they show up and the way that circus performers like show up to auditioning, which I wouldn't have even imagined that so many years ago, like that we would kind of break even when it was like the two of us versus like 1,000 dancers. But now it's like, yeah, 1,000 to 1,000. Yeah.
Yes. Sorry, I was laughing because you're right. Yes, sorry, continue. You're right. Okay. I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to cut you off, but it was an instinct. I just started laughing. I'm like, yes.
I can't remember which Bring It On it was, but do you remember we lost like, I think it was like Bring It On 5, but we were going to do Bring It On 5.
Oh my God, they were all exhausting. Every single one of them was exhausting. And I had my cheer friends that came in because people didn't know how huge it was going to be. And then after the first one, they just kept being like, oh yes. And then people were like, oh, you're a cheerleader? Because so many cheerleaders were coming to LA and being like, I'm a model. I can do this. I can do that. And they were like, yeah, but you're a terrible person because you haven't had any adversity in your life. And because cheerleaders they're like rhythmic gymnasts. Like, I'm sorry, if your unitard is like all Swarovski and if your unitard is like $15,000 and your dad is like has this private jet flying you to each of your competitions, you work hard. Like, you work hard. You've had an angry Russian woman yelling at you to get your ass on your head for most of your life. But you don't know what it's like to do that with no money. So, same with cheerleaders. Sorry. I'm a rhythmic gymnast. I know what's what. And I had all of my cheer friends that went in for all these things, and some of them didn't come from did come from adversity, and it was the same thing. It was just like, shit. I'm talking too much. Oh my God. Okay, I'm talking too much.
You're not talking too much. You're talking.
I'm not afraid.
I know my guest, completely unafraid. Not afraid to say those things, not afraid to tell the truth, because, you know, again, I want to bring it back to why people are always, again, so afraid to tell the truth in this business. And that was one of the really important reasons of why I always wanted to do a podcast and why I wanted it to be candid conversations. Like, regardless, you know, like, it's just, for me, an environment that doesn't really support that, like, in a great way. People are usually trying to change their words too much without stating the truth. And I've seen like a lot of that kind of like circus gymnastics or like circus mental gymnastics, whatever you want to call it. And you know, for me, I've seen it like hurt this medium and hurt this industry a lot, with people like not wanting to say the truth or not wanting to say that that was wrong or that was bad or that was inappropriate, because they think that, oh, circus like won't be what it is, or it's going to be controlled or whatever. It's like, yeah, but it's going to be controlled by somebody, because it's already being controlled by others. You're not in control of circus anymore. Circus is like totally like in the hands of so many other entities now. It's like you thinking that like you're in control of your own little circus world. I mean, that's like very limited. Maybe like years ago back in the day for sure, but nowadays absolutely not. I mean, there's so many things that have like hijacked circus as a medium. So for me, it is about taking like the authentic ownership back of our industry, you know, of like, these are the real conversations that we have. We don't usually ever have these conversations like on microphones or like
never. Because all of this, people are terrified to have any of this, like, actually somewhere that is where there's receipts. And the thing is, I don't want to say I don't care. I don't care what people think of me. If you are my friend on Facebook, I say things exactly the way they are. I want people to get their worth. I want people to get paid what they deserve. If you don't know what that is, I want to educate you. If you feel lost, I want to keep you safe. And like, if you don't think you deserve something, I'm going to tell you that you do. And if you don't, because a lot of people don't, I want to tell you how you can. I want to tell you how you can be the best version of yourself that you can be. And that's one of those things is like, circus is so, sorry, looking for the way to say this diplomatically. From the things that you said, if you don't come from generations of it, you don't come from sports background of it, if you're trying to just like step your foot into it, it definitely does require a level of skill. But I'm from the place of, I came from nothing. Like I came from a family of educators. My family were high school teachers. And my mother though told me, she's like, oh honey, everybody's telling you you're too tall to be a gymnast. You'll never do a back handspring because you're 6'1". You can't be a dancer because everybody's telling you that it's too gay. And people have told you will never do the circus apparatus that you want to do, which is aerial hoop, hand balancing, and aerial fabric, because that's what girls do. And she was like, those are your passions. Do you want to do these things? Do you think you can do these things? And I said, yes. She's like, well, honey, if you do, you better be the best around that can do these things, because people are going to judge you harder than they do anyone else. And it was true. But that tough love made me a fucking champion, which I got a gold medal to show. You got two.
Oh, that's my champion. Oh my
yes!
God. That is my champion. Oh my goodness. Again, it's like, it's so beautiful the way that things come full circle. And because again, it's like speaks to, you can do whatever you want to do. You can be whatever you want to be. I always tell people that are asking me about things, asking me about my journey, and asking me about the journeys that I've seen of other people. I always tell them, your journey is unlimited. The people that I have seen over the course of almost 20 years in this business have been themselves, have pushed forward, have pushed down, pushed through many barriers, and have owned all of the originality of who they are, even in spite of everything that people have said. And yes, they were blocked from opportunity.
I'll say
yes.
Amen. Sorry. I will say amen. Yes, honey.
And another amen. I'm going to say another amen and hallelujah, and yes, there have been, opportunities that we deserved and that we did not get. And I think it's important to also share those with people and to share those experiences, especially people that have been around for a very long time. And we've seen that a lot this past year. I've tried to put forth as much of that information and experience as I possibly can this past year, and obviously and beyond. And, with you sharing your journey and your experience too, of like what this has been like for you and the hurdles, and the other aspect of it, of how inspirational it has been and how much you've loved it. For me, your joy and your sense of joy still in and around this business, when it is also too incredibly easy to be jaded.
Sorry, not to stop you, but like, thank you.
Like, you're so welcome, because just like the pure joy that you get from that. But I honestly think it's because of how you carry yourself and what you give yourself the right to do, because you don't sequester yourself into any corner. You're authentic and you're honest. And I'm sorry, if there's a level of honesty that you're willing to give up, or authenticity, you're not going to be as happy. And yes, there is a lot of diplomacy that comes into play with things. And yes,
oh my God. Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm going to stop you right here. My mother's a supermodel diplomat. If anybody wants, like, Mama Panda Pottery is her handle on freaking Instagram. But like, I have learned so much diplomacy. And I also, one of my biggest things is me, making somebody feel less than does not make me greater than. Mm-hmm. That's not my intention ever. My purpose on this planet is to make people feel empowered. That's it. Full stop. So it's when people stray, and they don't understand, or they're selling themselves short, or they are just don't realize that they're hurting somebody else, or don't realize that they are projecting their own trauma or their own damage. That's when I take them aside and try and help them so that the buck stops there. But thank you for saying that. I really appreciate it.
You're welcome. I mean, it's the truth, and you live and you breathe that. And I'm really grateful again that like you're continuing your journey. I know that this has been such a hard year. I mean, like, again, you've made it through this last year. We've been through a few things. We made it through 2008. That was another huge crisis and a half for like the circus industry. I mean, we like, this has been so hard. And I want to continue to remind people of that, because our industry has been eviscerated this past year.
Eviscerated. Mm-hmm.
Like, absolutely.
But okay, so wait,
however,
let's talk about this.
And innovated at the same time.
Tell me more. Of course, more.
Yeah.
Like, I can tell you. Well, I mean, if you want to let me like drone on, but like, tell me more. Well, unless you want to let me drone on.
That was your invitation, okay. Because this is your pod to do.
Oh yes! Oh my God! It's our sister act finally. No, this year I have realized that people, not only did people lose their livelihoods, people lose so much of their gigs, people lose so many things that they were just used to doing on the regular. There were so many trying to find the diplomatic word, companies, groups, and individuals that were super predatory in terms of how they took advantage of artists, that they had been in the game for so long before they knew that they had just done done things for a certain way for so long, but they were taking advantage of people that just said, "Oh, this doesn't work anymore," and it wasn't even their main hustle. They just had circus jobs that they were like, "Ooh, oh, sorry, I almost named names. Not naming names. Ooh, you almost got me because I trust you." They had. I love you so much. They had just done things for the same way for so long, and they'd been doing things for decades, that people said, "Oh, you have amazing media. You have these high-profile gigs. I can get my," I hope you see me doing finger quotes, "exposure by doing a gig for you." And especially if some not good things came along with that.
And that's a 4-letter word, by the way. Exposure is a 4-letter word.
Oh my, honey, people die from exposure.
And yet they convince you that you're going to be lifted from exposure. How interesting.
My drag mother, Susie Winson, who was the headmistress of, and not grandmother, drag mother, because so many sexuals are like, "Oh, this diva is fabulous," and taught me how to be fabulous. Susie Winton is a biological woman, and she's a big titty bitch of rock and roll. And she's friends with Philip Tracy, who sends her hats. She is my drag mother. I could only wish to be as fabulous as she is. And she's mentored me, supported me, loved me, been there for me when I was falling apart, been there after somebody accused me of something that I didn't do, which we can get into in a whole nother thing, and supported me while my family remortgaged the house and came out of retirement. And she took care of me to make sure that I was taken care of until I could prove being like that things weren't the way they were. And to this day has absolutely just been a wonderful human being. And I'm just so blessed to have all of that together.
Yeah. I like what you said about obviously about people that have like gotten you through. Again, there's been so many people on my journey that have like gotten me through. And I mean, like even this last year, again, back to like your level of support, like with me doing the podcast, because this was a really hard year. And when I started like speaking and was willing to speak candidly, because like you're saying, we're all very diplomatic. And sometimes, even when people are like, hearing me speak in this way and they're like, I've never heard you say that before. I'm like, because I'm incredibly diplomatic. I mean, when you know how to be reserved, because it's a skill. It's not a bad thing to know when to say things and when to not. And again, when I'm saying things and not being as controlled, which I promised myself that I would not do that with the podcast, because I knew that that wasn't going to move the narrative or move the needle, especially with like the different panels that I participated on in for Circus Talk this like last year on inclusivity,
Definitely.
and on sexual harassment, sexual abuse within the circus community. And I knew also too, essentially, because of the way that things go in this environment, I said, well, even throughout this next year, am I willing to kind of blow up my career, so to speak? Am I willing to, do things which would detract from me being able to have work? Because that's how this industry works. It does. People don't like things that you're saying. They don't like things that you're trying to do. And if you're not supported by like a larger entity or supported by, the safer like community, because there are those, it's dissolving and it's changing, but we've still got a lot of that within circus. But there were a lot of companies, like you're saying, that have seen like, oh, wow, like we can't really benefit and exploit in the same way that we have been doing, but also to the performers that are recognizing how exploitive all of this has been for so many years, where you thought that you were like in a good gig. And I've seen a lot of people that like, they think that they're in a good gig. And for me, looking from the outside in, it is not a good gig. I don't think so. I see a revolving door of a lot of exposure, a lot of usage, a lot of mileage, but also to seeing a very few benefit. I call it like the one percenters. And I always tell people I've been in both. I know what it's like to do very well. I know what it's like to not do well. And I think that's also important when you've had those highs and those lows. And I love your type of career. I love mine. I feel like we've kind of been in all different spaces where we know what it's like to make great money. We know what it's like to be able to have clout. We know what it's like to be influential in certain ways. We also know what it's like to, like pay our dues, so to speak, which I'm not saying that people have to.
Oh my God, we've both been in the most insane, shitty situations where we go from this place where it's like, hey, like we're on a thing that we are each making, like there's commas in our paychecks, and we go in and they treat us like gold. And they were like, oh yes, Miss Booth, oh yes, Mr. Mendoza, like this and the other, and then like you and Arthur have like separate like dressing rooms on set for some ridiculous thing. And then we both know what it's like to be like, oh, okay, yeah, you were warming up like behind the bar where it's disgusting and wet and there's bartenders walking around you and you're like, I'm trying to do a back bend. and they don't understand. Yes. And everybody's so caught up in their own thing, but you can't blame them. The most you can do is educate the people that are getting you to those points and tell them, hey, this isn't okay. I'm taking my life in my hands. Like I can't just go in and hope for the best. I'm also past this. Like I have 2 gold medals. You just have to be real. You have to be real. So I really, really appreciate you saying that.
Of course, absolutely. I think, and I love that you said that you have to tell people and educate them. And I thought that this was such a profound year, and it's continuing. The education is continuing. We're seeing so many workshops. We're seeing people have so many more candid conversations of accountability within these spaces where it's like, well, yeah, like my needs do matter. My needs are hypersensitive. My needs are unique. And also too, how do we create like a—
Wait, let's get into that right now, because that is something that is so important. It's something I was hoping we're going to bring up. The accountability is such a huge thing, because in the last year we had moments that people were still saying, oh, well, we still want to hire you, we want to hire you for this event, we want to do this like thing, but because of how things are going down, it's COVID, so we don't have the budget for you.
Exactly.
And oh, I was negotiating things for people and being like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. You think the COVID bump works that way? No, the COVID bump works the other way. If I'm taking my life in my hands, not only do you, and they would be like, oh, like, well, we have aerial, we want this, we want that. And I said, no, you don't understand. If you want aerial, if you want acrobatic, you have to be able to account for my safety and my artist safety. Like, the COVID bump does not work as you having less money for this. The COVID bump works in terms of you can pay for me to be isolated. You can pay for my individual hotel room. You can pay for what it's going to take to walk me into the building and have my own dressing room and walk me to my space where I'm performing and make sure that nobody comes within 10 feet of me.
Absolutely.
Like, that's what it takes. And so the COVID bump works the other direction. So if I'm taking, not even me, if I have an artist taking their own lives in their hands to come in and perform, because it doesn't matter. They're not desperate. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Then, especially if I'm bringing you the best of the best, you need to make sure that you pay for that. So the COVID bump means that it's what you were paying them before for whatever the freak it was, it's going to be at least 80% more. And people started paying it. And then went, oh, we realized, okay, cool. And that was the thing that was magical. So when things started coming back, little by little, I made sure that people stuck to that. And it's actually been really, really, really amazing, because people are finally starting to, the people that I'm dealing with there's people in New York City that they don't understand. And they're starting to agree back to the old things of, oh, sure, I'll do it for fun. I'm like, no, you are high level. No. It makes me so angry. But you get what you pay for.
And again, that's why I continue to be on my soapbox, because I, have been saying this throughout the pandemic. Don't let them manipulate you, because they will use anything to manipulate an underregulated environment and industry. And that is the problem for the circus industry. And see, this is also the thing though, too, because, and this is what people don't like. They want us all to come together and bind as a circus community, which they still do not respect the fact, the gross inequality between the event producers and the event companies and the actual circus performers, because they still want to benefit from that imbalance in a way, and they cannot do that if we get full rights. It is not just a one industry in some respects vying for equal rights. It's not. The companies don't want to pay everybody extra. They want everybody to gig and fun for free. Like, that's ridiculous. They want that though. They still benefit from it. And so, because I am the person that continues to come out and say, wait a second here. Yes, you're a small business and an event company, but you still benefit from taking advantage from circus performers. And so, no, we are not on the same page, because even if you quote unquote understand, there's an aspect of what you're doing to save your business that they always try and say that we don't really understand, which I say, why are you telling circus performers that have been gigging and performing in this business for 20 plus years that we don't understand what it's like to run a small circus or a small business or an event company? Like, we've never produced.
We're small business owners too.
We're small business owners too, and we have been, and we've event produced, and we've agented, and we've done all sorts of things. So yes, I actually do know your peril, but again, that is to me the thing where it's like, well, that's the tick. And I continue to tell people, do not fall prey to the amnesia of before, because that's what people do. They will get you back into that game and trap you into the game that you have forgotten you so desperately wanted to get out of. So the pandemic was an opportunity to get out of that hole, and you you popped out for a little while. However, what happens after that? The amnesia of before, of how bad it was, because there was so much incredible burnout before the pandemic with the circus industry gigging all over the world, and there still is. And and that's because of these bad deals. That's because of these horrible deals. That's because there is no protection. There's no circus minimum wage even. There's no minimum wage. There's no minimum wage where it says you can't pay a circus performer less than this amount for any job in America at the very least. That does not exist. That should exist along with a multitude of other things. However, there is still this clash, like what you're talking about, which the people that continue to say that they mean well, they still want to control everything. But they want to, they want to make it seem like it's kind of tit for tat, like it'll kind of work both ways, but it's not. The companies have to change a lot.
My nana said it was people that are, they want to fuck you over while they tell you and make you feel like they're doing you a favor.
Yes, always. Always, even if it's the new version of diversity and inclusion and acceptance and this and that, I'm like, they'll do it to you while saying all of those things, because
I wish you could see my eye roll when you just said the new version of inclusivity, because I have experienced it. Like, absolutely.
Like it's going to happen within that as well, because I'm seeing that, I'm hearing about that, and that's okay to call out as well. Where it's like, again, people will move the needle a little bit, and I'm not saying that people aren't trying to do better things and make better things happen. There's some good things going down, but like what we're also saying, because for me, I feel like you always have to be vigilant, and you can never not be vigilant. I have been around too many environments that have been co-opted, where I've seen a lot of, we've just been in this business for so long. It is not going to change and evaporate in a year's time. And things that are deeply entrenched are also too not going to change overnight, even though there's been a lot of accountability within this last year that's really good. And some of that is sticking in some interesting ways, but the different level of accountability, I feel also too rests on our shoulders of the people existing within this business. And so what you're saying, when you see other people that maybe don't want to hold to that accountability because they want the free gig or they want the fun or they want to do something, I talk about the desperation of like getting back. I'm like, but that was the desperation from before. You either want to look cool and authentic, or you want to make sure either want to look cool and, blown up to a certain extent, or you want to make sure that there is integrity on all levels in this business, which is very difficult to do. It can be very difficult to do. I mean, there is, again,
absolutely.
Yeah, it can be very difficult. We're not saying that it's easy. I'm never saying that it's easy, because I've been up against and am up against those exact same conversations and narratives and things that are difficult, are hard to continue to push for. But like what you're doing, you're continuing to push for those things because that's the right thing to do.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. I really appreciate you saying that. Sorry, don't mean this to be a session in mutual masturbation, and I know that we've always seen eye to eye, but it's exactly what we're saying.
That was also the quote. Mutual masturbation. That was also the take. That was also good. Okay, so let's wind down our conversation. You've been so amazing. You've been so candid. You've been so everything. I just wanted to hear like your last thoughts about this industry moving forward and what you think about it in terms of like your entire journey, like moving forward, how you feel about it, what you think about it, like what you want to see. You're putting so much good stuff out there. I always say too, like there's people like you that are like not all out there in all these ways, but you're so, again, embedded and have such a reach. And I always try to remind people that, for the ones that think like it's just all about having tons of followers on social media, but it's not. It's not.
Sorry. Yes, it's not. Thank you. Like, absolutely. Like, I don't mean to cut you off. Finish what you had needed to say, because I already have an answer, but continue what you're saying.
Well, I mean, I was kind of finishing that off there, but the other aspect. Okay. Can you please speak?
Sorry.
Speak.
Sorry, I'm so excited. I don't think that my journey is the most important thing in all of this. I think my journey is what it is, and anybody that wants to find out about it, I'm an open book and they can connect me about it. I have done my bucket list. I've been so fortunate because we're not doing the hashtag horrible word. The main thing that anybody can take away from what I would like from the future is, if you don't think that the people coming up under you are being respectful of what your struggle has been, I think so much of circus for so long has been very insular and being like, oh, this is mine, this is my information, like this is like, and they hold it so tight. I realize that you can never be mad at somebody for what they don't know. So if you think somebody is fucking you over and undercutting you and doing all these things, if you never told them not to, and they are your students, or they ask you in honesty and kindness and to not try and do this, and you withheld information, it's not their fault. If they don't think they deserve to get paid their worth and you didn't tell them, you are absolutely ready to get paid your worth. That's not on them, that's on you. If you weren't a mentor, if you didn't give them all the intel and say no, if somebody's trying to pay you $250 to get into something and do aerial somewhere, and you didn't tell them, no, that's not my worth, I'm taking my life in my hands, I paid $250 for insurance for that night, it's on you, not on them. If they're flying blind and they're learning from the school of hard knocks, I've done it. I've made mistakes. I've done it all. The best thing you can do is mentor people, take people under your wing, tell people you care, tell people you're there for them, tell people that, give them tough love, that if they realize that you've always wanted the best for them and you're not just trying to sabotage them because of your ego, they're going to listen to you, and they're going to realize, because people want to do the right thing, especially if they hold you in high regard. If people see you as a mentor and somebody to look up to and somebody whose skill set they wish they had, they're going to want to have you be proud of them. So give them the chance. And that's how I've lived my life and how I will always live my life. And that's why when people come to me, even though I'm exhausted and I've had it officially, but they come to me and they're like, look, I don't want to fuck it up. I feel like I'm fucking it up. Like, what do I need to do? And I tell them, tell that person, hey, I'm worth this much. And if you don't have this much, if you try and tell me, oh, I'm sorry, the space that I'm in only can handle 300 people and I'm not charging a cover, be like, cool, and you're not ready for aerial. Let me know when you step your game up and you have 2,000 people that are paying $40 a pop, and then you're ready for me.
Right on, right on, right on.
Thank you for coming to my TED Talk. I love you so much, Shenea. I love you so much. I hope we can do more of these. You've always been a treasure, and I will be desperately in like, if not in love with you forever. So let's do this again soon.
I love you so much, and you are definitely going to be my repeat guest. I can't wait to have you on again. Like, you're definitely going to be like my extremely special repeat guest. I am so in love with you. I love you. Like, again, like, thank you for always being who you are. Like, you have always been Benn Mendoza. You have never wavered in who you are. You are really a beacon, and I'm so grateful that I met you at the time in my life that I did. And to remind people about people just being so incredibly generous. The heart
Thank you.
Someone like Benn Mendoza in this environment and in this business, so caring, so open, so tender, so accommodating, so willing to teach and to guide and to be democratic and transparent with what he has learned through his best and through his worst, which all are conducive to assisting anyone on their journey, because everything is what makes you who you are, the good and the bad, and growing and learning from that. And thank you for just being like a light and for being a bright panda. And I adore you.
Thank you.
Thank you for being so candid and
Thank you.
open and honest. I really appreciate it. And I'm just so grateful that, you know, you have like pushed through and like you are like charging forward. And I'm just grateful for that. So thank you so much, Benn.
I'll never stop. I love you. And you can let people know also that if they are ever stuck in a situation, and I may or may not know them, they can reach out. And I want to be a resource for people. So I know that we are both very, very, very busy all the time, but I've had so many people reach out to me from different parts of the world and on different things. But if I can, I know I'm super, super busy, but I anytime that I can, I really, really, really do want to be the mentor that I never had.
Thank you for joining me for this episode of the Live Like an Acrobat podcast, where I interviewed the beautiful Benn Mendoza. Please make sure to like, comment, and share the podcast. Thank you for your support. I appreciate it so much, and I'm looking forward to you tuning in to the next episode. The Live Like an Acrobat podcast is also available on Circus Talk, the inclusive, independent, and international online network for the circus industry. Circus Talk's mission is to create a level playing field for this industry and democratize access to information. Please consider subscribing to the Live Like an Acrobat podcast and to the CircuspreneurBlog.com, where you will find extended conversations and interactive content of each episode of the Live Like an Acrobat podcast. I'm your host, Shenea Stiletto, and until next time, please stay safe and stay healthy.